Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you joining us today in this live lecture coming to you from Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University and presented by Dr. Obioramba Igboeze. Today's date is Nkwo Market Day in the 12th month of the Igbo lunar calendar called Onwa Ede Ajana. And in the Roman Catholic calendar, today's date is 1/16/2025. And at Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University, here we try to decolonize your mind from mental slavery and brainwashing so that you can be whom you are without following somebody else to your detriment. Therefore, invite your family members, your friends, and well-wishers to join our university, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all social media platforms. And like, comment, and share. And the title of today's lecture is that the Europeans and the Arabs are the ones conquering the world. The Europeans and the Arabs are the ones conquering the world, taking the land, the people, and the resources of the indigenous people, directly or indirectly. The indigenous people have never been in control. So the Europeans and the Arabs are working on their separate ways, but sometimes work together to be taking the land and people and resources of the indigenous population, directly and indirectly. And directly, you have it in the USA, where they directly take over the land and resources. And how do they do that? They come in as settlers. It's important you understand the word settlers. The settlers, they leave their home country and come to a different land owned by other people to occupy that land, occupy, kill, and take away the resources of the people and govern that land, take away all the resources. Because you know, all the resources we have, most of the resources we need to live as human beings come from the ground. So once your land is taken, all the resources are also taken. And you know that it is in the land that you have both gold, oil, uranium, and everything you have is in the land. And so the USA directly, where they take the land directly, is where they come in as settlers and occupy those lands. They live there. Like in the USA, the indigenous people that own that land are the American Indians, or the one they call Native Americans. But they are not the ones that is controlling the resources, but the European settlers from Europe. They are the ones in charge of the United States. Also in Canada, you have the Aboriginals. Those who own the land in Canada are called the Aboriginals. They are called Inuit. One of them is Inuit, I-N-U-I-T. And the next one is Métis. And the last one is First Nation. These are the Aboriginals that own the land of Canada. But are they the one in charge of the resources and making the laws there? No, they are not. they have been overtaken by settlers from Europe. That is where they are directly taken over. And also in Australia, the Aboriginal Australians are the Tasmania and the Torres Strait Islanders. The Tasmania and the Torres Strait Islanders are the indigenous people. The Aboriginal Australians, they are black people in Australia. But today, they don't have any place. They are not in control of their land and resources. Their land and resources are being controlled by the European settlers. Also in New Zealand, the Maori people are the indigenous original owners of the land of New Zealand. But today, the Europeans are the ones controlling that area. And remember, these are the areas that they're controlling directly, which means they imported settlers from Europe to occupy the land and the resources of that place. It is interesting to know that also in Africa, a lot of people sometimes we don't see things the way they are, and that is part of the reason we set up Nkoloma Wisdom University, to let you know what is going on. In Egypt, the Arabs are the one occupying the land of Egypt. The original owners, the original indigenous people of Egypt are the Nubian people. But the Nubian people, they are not in control of Egypt today. The Arabs are. Also in Tunisia, the Arabs are also the ones in controlling Tunisia. However, the Amazighi people are the indigenous people of Tunisia. In Morocco, also the Arabs are controlling Morocco, but the indigenous people are the Berbers. The Berbers are also in Algeria and Libya. And you know that Algeria and Libya are also occupied by Arabs. So the Arabs, you know, are foreigners in Africa. So just like the Europeans came all the way from Europe to occupy where they live today, where you call USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and even Brazil and others. The same way the Arabs migrated, came from their area to Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, and Libya. So you as an indigenous African, black African, sometimes you say, these people are not black. Yeah, they're not black because they're not indigenous. They migrated. They colonized those lands. So the Arabs, they are the one occupying Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, Libya. Other places where they are occupying in Africa include Mauritania, Somalia, Djibouti, Comoros, Senegal, Niger, Mali, Gambia, to mention a few. So as you can see, it is the Europeans and Arabs that actually conquering the world, especially also in Africa. Because you can tell that all these countries, Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, all of them are in North Africa. They are in the African continent. And the areas indirectly controlled by Europeans include Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Zambia, Angola, Botswana, Cameroon, to mention a few. So if you look around the world, and Africa in particularly, you will then observe that African lands and resources are being have been colonized or are being colonized, because it continues, it never stopped, by either Europeans directly, as in South Africa. Like in South Africa, South Africa, the Europeans occupy how many? About 70 or more of the land and resources of South Africa. Also in Zimbabwe, the Europeans are living there. They occupy a good percentage of the lands also in Zimbabwe. And so where they live directly and controlling the land. So if either they are there directly controlling the land or they are controlling it indirectly. So it's either you see the Europeans doing that or the Arabs doing that, while we, the indigenous people, are just sitting there as if we don't know what is going on. And I believe maybe we don't know. And that is why Nkola Mahadum is presenting this type of lecture, for you to know what is happening to you as an African, as an indigenous African, that if you keep quiet, of course now, as a Biafran in Nigeria, whether you live in Kogi or Benue or Plateau or Southern Kaduna or Igodomigodo or Old Eastern region, what do you learn? What does this lecture mean to you? We claim that we are this, we are that, and we are not following up about what is going on in the world. What does this lecture mean to you? Are you a free person? Are you controlling your resources? If you are not controlling your resources, why not? These other Europeans and Arabs that have come all the way down, thousands of miles away, they are the one controlling your resources either directly or indirectly. And you're sitting there. You're sitting there talking and talking and talking. And you will be talking and without being in control of your resources. Without being in control of your resources, you will continue to be a slave in this world. Because those who are controlling your land and resources are the one making the money to buy weapons and buy influence to keep their people living good in this world. This is what Nkola Mahadum wants you to know in this lecture, that it is the Arabs and the Europeans that are colonizing, conquering the lands and people and resources across the world. Because the place you call America today are not owned by Americans. They are owned by Europeans. The owners are American Indians, but they are not the one making decision in their land. People making decision and managing all the resources are the Europeans that came from Europe. Also in Canada, the Aborigines are called Inuit, Métis, and First Nation, but they are not the one controlling the resources. It is the settlers, the European settlers that came in that land. They are the one controlling the land and resources directly. Also, in Australia, the Aborigines there, they are called the Tasmania and the Torres Strait Islanders, but they are not the one controlling the land and resources. The European settlers who came there are the ones controlling it. Even in New Zealand, the Maori people are the indigenous people there, but they're not the one controlling the land or resources. And if you come down to Africa, our own continent, the Nubian people are the owners of Egypt, but the Arabs are the ones controlling that land and resources of the Egyptian people. In Tunisia, the Amazi people are the indigenous people, but they are not the one controlling that place. The Arabs are. And in Morocco, you have the Berbers as the indigenous people, but the Arabs are the one controlling the land and resources. Also in Algeria, the same. The Berbers are the indigenous people, but they're not the one controlling the land and resources. Also in Libya, the Libya you call Libya, Muammar Gaddafi. Yes, Muammar Gaddafi is a man of Africa, but he's from Arab. He's not an indigenous person. And so the Arabs and the Europeans are the one conquering and colonizing people in this world, while the indigenous people just sit there and either they are ignorant or careless. I don't know what, we don't know what to call it at in Kolomahadum. And where they are not, where they don't have their foot on the ground, like in South Africa and Zimbabwe, they indirectly manage that places. And you should also know that in addition to the Arabs controlling Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, and Libya, they also control Mauritania, Somalia, Djibouti, Comoros, Senegal, Niger, Mali, Gambia, to mention a few. And like I was saying before, where they do not control directly by being their president, they use our own people. They use our own people to indirectly control and exploit that environment. Like in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Zambia, Angola, Botswana, Cameroon, and the rest in Africa. Because you know that most African countries are not free. They are still being manipulated, being exploited by the colonial masters and other foreign agents like China and recently the Russians. So if you are a Biafran in Nigeria, whether you are in Kogi, whether you are in Benue, whether in Plateau, whether you are in Igodo or all Eastern region, what does this lecture mean to you? Are you free? Are you controlling your resources? If not, why are you not controlling it? Why can't you control it? These are the questions you have to provide answer to. Because people that are controlling your resources are the one that has the power. They are the one that they make money, enough money to buy all the weapons to kill you, to make their people richer, because they are the one giving licenses for people to mine your resources. Why are you not mining your resources? This is another thing, another question Kolomahad want to ask all of us. Because if you are there living in America, living anywhere in the world, in Lagos, anywhere you feel that you are this and this, but you are not, we are not the one managing our land and resources. We are almost as good as nothing. And with this, we shall be bringing to this lecture to an end. But before we end it, we have to ask you again to please. Every African must stand up to dismantle all the colonial boundaries in Africa, because that is the cause of the migration, the poverty, the wars, the humiliations, the manipulations, the dehumanizations that we are getting in our land. And with this, we shall be bringing today's lecture to an end. Thank you very much for joining us today, and have a very, very good one. Thank you so much. If you missed this lecture, please go back and listen to it, and also go back to our previous lectures, because all the lectures we are packaging at in Kolomahadum is for the good of all of us. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.